and welcome back to another video. I'm Anne and I'm a full-time artist and best-selling author living in LA. I run my own business, which includes working with incredible clients like Disney, Facebook, Adobe, and Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams. I've had the pleasure of working on a wide range of projects, including home decor, stationery, book covers, puzzles, and even ice cream cartons featuring Dolly Parton. I'm sharing my painting process and life as a full-time professional artist here, and if you're interested in that, please like and subscribe. Today I'm working on a piece for an upcoming gallery show that's going to be a tribute to Dolly Parton. I'm painting the piece in gouache on illustration board that I trimmed down to size. I sketched the piece out first in Photoshop so I could make as many adjustments as I needed before finalizing the sketch. I also did a quick color comp in Photoshop before I painted to figure out the colors so that when I go to painting I can just focus on painting. And then I printed out just the sketch so I could transfer it with transfer paper onto illustration board like you're seeing here. All this prep work takes a lot of time up front, but it makes the painting process go so much smoother. I'm going to share my whole process for painting this piece in this video, but we're also going to talk about a topic I get asked a lot about from you: imposter syndrome and perfectionism. I'm going to start out with a specific question I got from a newsletter subscriber. When first starting out, did you have any fears about putting your work out there? Imposter syndrome, for example. And if so, how did you overcome that? I'm going to take a step out to say here, if you're not familiar with what imposter syndrome is, it's a belief that you're not qualified or good enough and have a fear that everyone is going to find out. To answer the original question, of course I did. When starting out, I was so scared of the feedback I was going to get, that everyone was going to hate my work or say really mean things about it. And then I was going to never want to paint again. But I also knew that while I was proud of something I made, I was worried that it wasn't the best it could be, because it usually isn't when you're starting out. There are a lot of worries that come up with sharing your work in the beginning, and the main thing it comes down to is worrying about what other people are going to think. So I'm going to tell you now to release yourself from that. What other people think is none of your business. Silence those voices. What's most important is what you think about your work and how you can keep improving. And that's your business. That's what you can focus on. And so sharing your work and getting people's reactions to it is actually a great way for you to get better and get over that fear, because the more feedback you hear, the more you can zone in on what are themes that you're hearing and maybe something you can improve on, and how to shuffle out the noise of stuff that doesn't matter. And you're also going to find that if people even care enough about your work to give you feedback, it's actually a great thing, because most of the time, people aren't going to care about what you're doing, and that's the truth. So if you can get people to care about what you're doing, it shows that you're doing something great. I like to use a flat brush when I'm painting backgrounds too, just to get the smoothest application of large areas. When I'm doing blends that are going to be like gradients, then I use two brushes. So I'll use one with this lighter color like I'm doing here, and then I'll come in with a second brush with the darker color to blend the two colors back and forth together for a seamless transition. I like to paint from back to front. So the things that are behind other things, that's what I mean by back to front. So I start with the background most of the time. And I like to paint in as large an area in one color as I can, because you'll just get the smoothest paint application that way. I like to leave as many blank areas, large blank areas, the paper as possible, because it's easier to paint directly on the paper and get the most vibrant color than it is to paint over other paint, because then you can easily reactivate other paint. So try to leave big areas blank in the paper still. I was really excited to participate in this gallery show as a tribute to Dolly Parton. I've painted her several times before already, because I just admire her so much. She's in my first book, Bad Girls Throughout History, because she truly is a trailblazer within her life, being one of the first female artists to really own her work. She even said once in an interview she thinks of all her songs as her children, and she expects them to take care of her when she's older, which I love because as artists, our work is very much like giving birth to creations of our own. And as an illustrator, you sell your work, you sell the rights to your work, just like a songwriter, or you sell licensing usage to your work, just like a songwriter. And by maintaining our copyrights and selling and licensing our work, it is going to take care of us and our livelihood as we get older. So she's an inspiration to every artist in every way. So the gold paint I'm using here is actually a poster color gold paint because I don't really like the metallic paints in gouache. The metallics never seem shiny enough and it seems kind of muddy. So I like to use either poster color or acrylic in metallics to get like a really shiny metallic, reflective metallic paint. I also get a lot of questions about perfectionism, which is tied into imposter syndrome, and that most of you are worried to start because you're such a perfectionist and nothing turns out the way you imagine. I'm going to give you a little truth bomb here and say something maybe controversial with you, and that's there is no perfect piece. First of all, the idea of perfect is an illusion. What might be perfect to one person is not perfect to someone else. I mean, just ask any of your friends about who you think is hot. Like, rarely do people agree on a universal hot person. And so that already shows you that so many things, especially visual things, are subjective. But most things in life are subjective. So what you can work on is dialing in on your taste, what you like, and what your voice is. And you do that by making things you like and care about. And then you're going to find your audience and people who will like your work because they like and care about the same things. So much of art is not about how you make a piece, but about the subject and how it represents the person, the viewer, how it connects with the viewer. And most of the time, people care about people who share the same values, beliefs, and interests. So keep making things that you like. Keep improving on the things that you can already see in your own work that you want to get better at. And then you can keep improving on those by drawing a lot more, painting a lot more, taking classes, learning from other artists who are good at something you want to be good at, and practicing. Honestly, there's no shortcut to doing the work. You just have to do the work, and this will honestly solve your problems with perfectionism and imposter syndrome. Like, if you just release yourself of the idea that there is a perfect piece and that every piece you have to make has to be perfect, you will make so much more work. You'll just get to work, and then you'll actually find yourself getting closer to making that perfect piece. Maybe you'll start by just getting to a place where you don't hate the piece you make. And then maybe the next piece you'll even start to like. And then you'll learn that the whole point is this process, that you get to drop into flow and make art because you like it in the first place and it's not so much about the end result. And then you'll start getting better with each piece you make until you get to a place where you are happy with the end result. And you'll realize it's not about perfect. It's not about making exactly what you imagine. It's about the process, connecting your vision with your practice, with who you are, and then practicing so that what you create is a skill and talent you can communicate through your art. Also, what professional artists know is that there is no perfect piece. There will never be a point where you cross the finish line and go, there it is, here's the perfect piece. There's only doing the work and discovering who you are as an artist along the way. And you'll realize what you thought was the perfect piece when you started out is actually different from where you end up. There are artists that you are going to love and admire who make you want to be an artist, but your work, if you put in the work to really discover your own voice and stand out, and that's what makes people successful artists, is not going to look like the work that you love necessarily. It can be influenced by it. There can be echoes of it. We all stand on the shoulders of everyone who came before us. But artists who admire Dolly Parton, for example, they still have to make their own way, their own voice. The magic is inside you, like she says. There is no crystal ball. Also, perfect is boring. You want to create something that only a human can create, and we are all by nature perfectly imperfect in our own ways. And we need your voice and the thing that only you have. Now, on to imposter syndrome. You might feel imposter syndrome because your pieces aren't perfect. And that's why perfectionism and imposter syndrome are both false road bumps on the way to becoming an artist. They're actually just a natural bump in the road in the path to becoming an artist, and not actually something that only you uniquely experience. It's part of the experience. Imposter syndrome really comes from your lack of confidence and trust in yourself in the beginning of something. And when we're all beginners, you really have to approach it with a beginner's mind of joy, pure love for the thing that you want to learn, and not knowing how good or bad you are. You just have to go into it trusting that you're going to learn and get better and be fully present in the process. Also, imposter syndrome never really truly goes away until you understand that no one knows what they're doing. I've worked with people at all high levels of their careers and all years of experience in their careers, and I can tell you that no one knows what they're doing. The world changes so fast now that no one is truly an expert on anything, and there's always something more to know or learn. So once you realize that no one really knows what they're doing and that everything is made up in this world, you can release yourself from feeling like an imposter. My idea with painting this piece for Dolly Parton and this tribute show for her was just I wanted to portray her um in the center of a heart because she radiates so much warmth and love through her work and her life and her mere existence. Um, and it was inspired by a painting or a photo I saw of her with a bow in her hair when she was younger, because there's a rumor that Dolly Parton is covered in tattoos underneath all her clothes. And she addressed it in an interview where she said she actually was very sick for a while. And when she got better, she actually covered up all the scars from her illness with a bunch of little tattoos of bows and roses and butterflies and beautiful things, so that she could overcome that era in her life. And I thought that was really beautiful. And so I wanted to paint a piece that had bows and roses to reflect the beauty that she sees in the world and the beauty that she puts out in the world. I also got the chance to work with Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams when they did a collaboration with Dolly Parton, also supporting her Imagination Library, which is what this tribute show is also going to support. I was so lucky to work with Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams. They're one of my favorite ice cream companies. I mean, I just love ice cream in general. I really love Jenny's because it's just so creative and um, honestly poetic and artistic for a ice cream company, and it was started by a woman. And they contacted me to do the packaging design for their Jenny's and Dolly collaboration. I was so honored and so excited when Dolly actually saw my art and approved it and then took a picture with it for her Instagram. So that was definitely a career highlight that I could have never imagined. Um, and that just gave me even more confidence in my career that Dolly Parton approves of it. So it really doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. I'm really excited to do something that supports Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, which is dedicated to inspiring a love of reading by giving free books to children from birth to age 5 throughout the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, and Republic of Ireland. I grew up being a library kid. My family didn't have much money to buy a bunch of books, but I was always at the library every weekend borrowing new books and rereading old favorites. And my love of books really fed my imagination, and helped me through the harder parts of my childhood. And I think it's incredible that she does something like this to help with early childhood literacy, because it is something that is under fire all the time, especially in the United States. So, just another incredible accomplishment in her life, that personally inspires me and influences my life, because books are such a huge part of my world, having written and illustrated books, and um, still just being an avid reader myself because of a love of reading that I developed in early childhood. Okay, so when I'm painting in details on a piece like this over places where I've already painted, like the bows in her hair, I will use another piece of paper to rest my hand on so that my hand doesn't smudge the paint that's underneath. Because gouache is reactivated easily by like the sweat in your hand or the oils in your hand, um, and you don't want to smudge anything. So having like a piece of paper as a smudge guard underneath your hand really helps with that. I really like using a number 2 brush to paint in the tiny details. So I can use like the really thin tip of the brush, but I could also press down to have more of like a thicker brush line. It makes it feel more calligraphic, and that's just something I really like. Another thing you can do to overcome imposter syndrome is to build up your confidence. And the only thing that helped me build up my confidence with art was practice and time. And I'm going to keep saying that over and over again. You just have to practice, practice, practice on your craft and uncouple your expectation of what the end result should look like with your process of actually practicing and being present and learning and getting better with each drawing. You can't get to your 100th drawing without starting your first one. And be vulnerable enough to open yourself up to feedback by sharing your work with teachers, with peers, with mentors, with the internet. And don't tie it to your self-worth, because how good your piece is does not relate to how good you are as an artist. It's not about how good you are, it's about how good you want to be. I had a teacher who graded us not because we were just starting out and it was maybe our second term in school, not on how good the piece was, but on how many pieces we did, because he was grading us on our initiative and not on our skill level yet, because we truly didn't have it then. And I really learned a lot just from being graded on my initiative to do 50 pieces to get to one goodish piece, than just trying to turn in one good piece and letting it be where it was. Like, that really built up my confidence to know, okay, it really is going to take a lot of pieces to get to a good piece. And even after school, when I got offered jobs I didn't feel like I was ready for, taking them on pushed me to get better, to get to the level I felt I needed to be to accomplish that job. So working on things that you're not confident on, taking on jobs that you feel like you might not be ready for, will push you to take that extra effort to be the person that is the person who gets offered this job, who does the job, who kills that job. Work on things you're not confident on by taking classes or practicing. Make your comfort zone by practicing something you like over and over until you feel like you've really got a grip on it. And then push yourself out of that comfort zone. Stretch yourself so that your comfort zone gets bigger. The bigger your comfort zone gets, the smaller your imposter syndrome gets. And this applies to everything you do that scares you. Drawing, painting, new mediums, public speaking. The first time I did public speaking, I would shake so hard I couldn't even read the cards I was holding. But then the next time it got a little easier. And the time after that, even easier. And you have to remember, most of the time, people are rooting for you. Seeing other people succeed helps other people see what's possible for them too. And if all else fails, get a little delusional. Sometimes it really is about faking it until you make it. Tell yourself that you are the perfect person for this job because of X, Y, Z. Things that make you uniquely qualified. Find how you can relate to the thing you're being asked to do or the thing you want to put yourself forward as. Put yourself in the shoes of someone who is confident in what you want to be confident in, doing what you want to do. Embody that, and as long as you're putting in the work too, little by little, you'll gain that confidence. You'll earn it by doing the work, putting yourself out there, and soon enough, you won't be worried that people are thinking, who do they think they are to do this? Who do you think you are not to do this? There's no one more qualified than you to do the things that you want to do. Ultimately, know that imposter syndrome isn't just in your head. It's because society conditions us to downplay ourselves or be humble, especially if you're a woman, a person of color, or someone not traditionally seen as a person in a position of leadership, entrepreneurship, or power. We downplay ourselves so not to be threatening or unlikable. Like, God forbid, the worst thing a woman can be is unlikable. The truth is that we need to own our voice and know our worth and cheer each other on because we are the ones creating the world we want to see. The only ones who benefit from us having imposter syndrome are people still upholding the patriarchy and gatekeeping what's possible for other people. Another thing I want you to remember about imposter syndrome is that the most inspiring people are people who can come from anywhere and make a huge impact with their work by being brave enough to try something. And that includes someone like Dolly Parton, um, who grew up in a very poor area of East Tennessee and making her dreams come true and having the worldwide and historical impact that she has. Like, you being small and staying small because of your imposter syndrome doesn't serve anyone. You owe it to the rest of us to share the gift that only you have, because who knows what impact that can create in this world. So you belong here just as much as anyone else does, and just remind yourself of that anytime you have imposter syndrome. And anything that you have to overcome because of it will just add to your lore. Thank you so much for joining me today for this video. I hope it helps you build some confidence and changes your mindset about yourself. And if you liked it, let me know in the comments. Thanks.